Hey, this is Bruce Boudreau, and you're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mack, and Harrison.
All right, everyone. It's now my pleasure to welcome on Mr. Nick Bowins from Hockey Collective. Nick, how's it going, bud?
Doing good, doing good. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you here. Your page is certainly one that we pay a lot of attention to, so it's good to get you on the show finally. Just before we dive into everything, for those that don't know, why don't you get them up to speed on where you're located and a little bit about Hockey Collective itself?
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words there. Hockey Collective, we're a social media brand doing a lot of highlights, news, kind of breakdowns on the sports. Same as you guys, just love the game at the end of the day. We've been around for about 10 years now. My co-owner Pat started the page when he was back in high school, and we've been basically buzzing on Instagram over that time. Really got into TikTok, Twitter, everything else the last couple of years here more so. But yeah, Instagram's our main thing. We've got about 370,000 people on Instagram there, about 40,000 on TikTok, trying to do some dances and funny stuff over there. That's a little bit different, but yeah, just really love hockey, like you guys said, and happy to be here and shoot the shit with you about it.
Sure. And you guys are up in Ontario, correct?
Yeah, we're mainly in Ontario. So like I said, I co-owner Pat. It was the two of us for a number of years there, and we're actually up to about 10 kind of part-time people helping out on different platforms and stuff right now. Majority in Ontario. We got one in Pennsylvania, one in Boston, but other than that, we got way too many Leafs fans.
So I would take it you're not a Leafs fan then.
I am, but it
Okay.
sucks. But it
Yeah.
sucks. That's what we'll say.
Should we just jump right into it? Or
I mean, might as well, I guess.
I would love to hear your analysis of the Leafs so far this season. Just, your thoughts.
Dude, it's just crazy. And I mean, it even ties into other sports too. Like we think about it, like the Toronto collapses over the years with all the Leafs, and then you look at baseball this year, and we did the same shit against the Mariners, and it's a year-round cycle of Toronto sports choking. And I mean, on paper, we've got a good team, and I don't think any of you guys would argue that, whether you like the Leafs or not. Like it's a good team. We've got some D injuries now, obviously the struggles in net, and all of a sudden it's like, damn, we're in a pretty deep division, pretty deep conference, couple bad weeks and something could go wrong, and then boom, all of a sudden they reel off a couple wins. Matthews is getting back out there. Tavares looks like he did on the island a couple years ago. But I mean, playoffs, I think we're going to make the playoffs. Do I think we're going to win a round? I think it'd be crazy to say that we're going to win a round at this point.
What's your thought on the goaltending situation? Mac and I are Caps fans, born and raised in the DC area. So we are quite familiar with Ilya Samsonov. What's been your impression so far?
Yeah.
Mac, what do you think?
Well, I was just gonna say, or I was gonna ask you if you've been keeping a running total of how many times the dude drops his stick, because that's what used to drive me crazy when he was in Washington.
I don't get it. Like that seems like such an easy fix for a goalie coach. I didn't realize it's like a lifelong problem for him. But
Yep.
me and a couple buddies were saying the same thing. I think there was 3 in one game a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago.
nope, get used to it. We used to joke about how somebody just needs to take some duct tape and just freaking wrap it and call it a night.
Yeah, jeez. No, I mean honestly, the goaltending, like it is what it is. Is it any worse than last year? Like they had Mrazek and Campbell. Campbell was hot for a bit, but he finished the year pretty shitty, and he's kind of continued it into this year. Poor guy. But I mean, I didn't feel really any worse about it than I did last year, honestly. Obviously Murray gets hurt after one game. That's not ideal. Came back last night there, had a good showing against his old team, the Penguins. Samsonov, I mean, he's looked good, but I'm not super confident. Like I'd say the one thing that the Leafs do is they suppress chances a lot better than the Capitals have the last 2 or 3 years.
For sure.
And I mean, you even look at Kemper in net, he's getting peppered still for them right now, right? So they give up a lot less kind of slot chances and high danger chances than Washington did. So maybe he can get some luck and ride that out. But overall, I don't think it's anything to be super confident in.
So if I'm not mistaken, Muzzin is out for a little bit now, isn't he? Or is it a
Yeah.
short-term thing?
So that's a tough one, and it's
That's a
kind of been.
spinal injury, isn't it? It's like the long-term thing.
Yeah, so he's had a couple concussions the last playoff runs, if you guys remember that in Montreal, and then last year too. And he was in and out a little bit. I think he ended up back in for the playoffs, but he got hurt. I want to say it was probably 3 weeks ago, and that night Marner had some quotes in the media of like, this is bigger than hockey. Like, you hope he's okay for his family, and you got to think about the rest of his life and stuff. So I
Wow.
mean, I think we've kind of had in our heads here that for the last 3 weeks he's done for the season, and it's time to look for somebody else. Liljegren came back not too long ago. I mean, that guy's maybe our best defenseman other than Riley, obviously, but like he's just so steady back there. That's
He's
big.
been good.
Yeah, he's just like I know he's like an analytical darling, but he just plays smart hockey. He's a guy that you can appreciate when you watch, right? And now Brody's hurt too. So yeah, I mean, Brody and Muzzin are hurt. I mean, those are the only
Yeah.
two defensively reliable guys on the team.
So how soon before the Eric Carlson to Toronto rumors? Like, are we thinking like a week, maybe 2 weeks?
I hope not, man. I so happy for him that he's kind of back on pace and he's lighting up the world right now. But the last thing we need is another $11 million man.
That's fair. I will say though, you touched on it initially, but Johnny T has been a pretty big surprise. I think he was getting a lot of hate the last couple of years, especially people saying like that this guy shouldn't be the captain or whatever. But he's really tried to silence some of the haters so far this year.
Yeah, Harry was leading the charge online there,
Oh
but
yeah. I'm a Penguins fan, diehard, but I love the Leafs. And last year I was very critical of him in the first couple games of round one.
yeah.
So
Yeah, no, he's honestly, he hasn't been healthy the last couple of years. He misses games here and there, like kind of once a month type thing. And a really weird thing that I don't think we're ever going to get clarity on, but like Leafs fans really picked up on, he could not get the puck off the ice in tight the last like 2 years. And that's where Johnny makes his kind of bread and butter, right? Like in front of the net, he's a net front guy putting home goals there. So you'd see him in the slot and he'd wind up for a wrister and he'd get it 4 inches off the ice. And it's like, what are you doing? The goalie's down. And this year he scored like 3-4 goals in tight. And it's just, I mean, we're never going to get an answer to it, but it's something interesting that all of a sudden he's burying those. Obviously, you guys know he's never going to be a fast skater. He's never going to keep up with the Marners and Nylanders on his wing there. But no, he looks good. And you got to be happy for the guy. I mean, being the captain in Toronto when they lose for the 10th year in a row in the first round, it feels like he was taking some heat, that's for sure.
So that being said, you guys are hanging around with Boston. They're obviously running away with things right now. I would say, them and the Devils in the East. But, we were talking about this in our season previews. Like, it's got to happen at some point. Like we were saying this as Caps fans going into 2018. Like it's just got to happen at some point. Like, is this the year?
Man, I hope so. I hope so because I really like Kyle Dubas, and I don't think you can fault him for most of the issues that this team had. Like at the end of the day, every playoff series, the players don't get it done over the last number of years. And to me, that's not a GM thing, right? Like you built a great team. He's been up against the cap the last, 4 years, and he finds guys like Hyman when he was younger, like Bunting the last couple of years. He's got Giordano playing for 800 grand. Like he's doing all these deals and steals every year. He's putting the best team on paper. Realistically, they've gotten a little bit better each season, the last 3 or 4 here. So Dubas has done his contract at the end of this year. He said he's not talking about it until the end of the year. And there's a bunch of rumors that, if Dubas is gone, Matthews is gone because they're kind of boys and he brought him in and all that stuff. So I hope they win a round or two this year just so we don't have to get into that headache.
And he's pretty closely linked to Sheldon Keefe as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. So they coached together in the OHL there. He brought Keefe in and then the Marley. So they won an OHL championship or like 4 division titles, I think. And then they won in the AHL as well. And then haven't won shit here.
Wow.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the whole Dubas Matthews 2 years from now situation, but I'll save you the breath. It sounds like you already have your thoughts on that, and I think we can all agree on it. I want to ask you about some other teams up north of the border. As a guy who's never been to Canada, I always like to hear from guys who are Canadian. Does the media kind of play favorites now to the Oilers since they seem to be like, I don't want to say top dog above the Leafs, but they got McDavid, Draisaitl. Sound like they're more cup or bust at this point.
Yeah, I would say so, honestly. And I think the best example of that is the Jack Campbell signing there. Like, it was like, oh, Toronto doesn't need to pay this guy. He's a bum. He's been hurt all year. And then he signs in Edmonton, and the Toronto media is like, oh, what a signing for the Oilers. They got their guy. Like, it's such a everybody against Toronto that we kind of lean into it on Hockey Collective, especially. But I mean, like, overall, the Oilers are good, man. They were actually my cup pick. I said at the start of the year that I think McDavid's going to go nuts. I think he saw Matthews score 60 and he's like, I'm going to score 60. I think he saw McKinnon make $100,000 more than him, and he's going to say, screw that, I'm making more on my next deal. So I think this is the McDavid revenge against the world tour year. I think the Oilers are going to make a good push.
He did
Last year
literally
I was,
everything last year.
Yeah, last year I was super, super harsh on the Oilers all season long. And I kept saying, like, this isn't sustainable. You can't win playoff series with just two guys scoring all your goals. And then we get to the playoffs and I watched and I was like, oh, maybe you can win a playoff series with two guys scoring all your goals. So, but I'm with you. I really think they could actually make a deep run this year. And it seems like the goaltending situation just like doesn't matter that much. As long as they have somebody that's like semi decent back there, they seem to be able to get it done. So
yeah, no, Stuart Skinner's looked great, and he's a hometown kid there in Edmonton, so gotta love a story like that. Hope he kind of keeps rolling there. I think the Kane injury is the one thing that kind of scares my prediction a little bit there. Like, that's just
big.
such a
Yeah.
good
Yeah. I had them in the final as well, and I think Mac, you did too.
I think I did too.
Yeah,
but
I had
you're
them
right.
in the Rangers.
Kane has been such a monster. It's hard to imagine how they're going to be able to replace him, and hopefully he'll be able to return somewhere before the playoffs. But it's a scary injury, so you never know.
Yeah, no, that was scary stuff.
Who do you like out of the East?
Man, I think the East, like, I don't know who was, but I wasn't super high on Boston. We kind of thought all along on our show that it was going to be Canes and Rangers. Whoever could kind of seal that division's going to go deep. And
that's good. I don't feel as stupid now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Rangers haven't looked great yet, right? Like they've had some good games and some bad games, but I think anytime you got Shesterkin in net, they've got offensive power, obviously, and then their decor, I think, is slept on. You got Trouba and Fox, you got Lindgren and Keandre, and then you got Zach Jones and Braden Schneider, who are just towers back there on the third pairing. So Rangers are good. Kane's never bad under Brendamore. I think as much as the Atlantic's been kind of the talk the last couple of years, I think the winner's going to come from the Metro this year.
Ooh.
Yeah, that definitely makes me feel a little better about our preseason predictions.
Yeah,
we were very big on Canes Rangers, so that worked out well. But two teams that we were also big on that just don't seem to have any mojo going is the Blues and the Predators. I think I had the Blues going to the finals. So, have you had a chance to watch any of their games?
Yeah, I also like the Blues. I thought kind of like Kyrou, Thomas, these guys got their payday. They're going to try and prove it here. And that obviously hasn't really happened. I mean, the Blues they look abysmal. And it honestly hasn't been Binnington's fault night in, night out. He's had some shaky ones and his numbers are pretty bad. But you watch some of the games and it's 2-on-1, 2-on-1, 2-on-1 breakaway. And it's like, Jesus, what are we doing? So I don't know. St. Louis is an interesting one to watch. Ryan O'Reilly took a month to get going there. They just haven't been scoring. I think Nashville's the bigger surprise for me there. We said a bunch coming into the year, like, hey, Duchesne had a career year. Johansson had a career year. Are they going to repeat that? No, but they brought in Niederreiter. Maybe that can add some of those goals back in. And I thought the addition of McDonough was huge.
Yeah.
Like, I love that guy, and that's a proven winner no matter where he goes. That guy eats pucks and wins. So I really like that. They've got a good decor. Saros not looking good has been the biggest surprise, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, you talk about bad numbers.
Division.
Yeah, we were just talking about it yesterday on our show. We were talking about Bainton, but Saros for sure. I mean, I don't think anyone saw this coming. We'll see if he can turn it around.
The one thing I would say with Nashville, though, I think it's a little bit, as much as I'm down on them myself, I think it's a little bit overplayed. Like, they've got 15 points. They win a game, they're tied for third with Colorado. They win 2 games,
right.
Yes,
they're tied for second, right? Like, we're still at that point of the year where an overtime loss can push you past somebody in the standings. So I hope Nashville figures it out, because I think they've got a team that lends itself to playoff hockey, right? Big bodies.
They're
It's
also
so weird,
in that
like,
division. Like, the Central is not that strong, to be honest.
And they're all kind of separated, like you said, by just a couple points. So no one's really running away with that one yet. But it is just kind of weird this time of year trying to figure out like who's actually bad, who's actually good. I feel like the rule of thumb is always like sometime around American Thanksgiving is when you can really start to sort of take things a little more seriously standings wise. So these next couple of weeks should be really interesting.
Definitely. And I think we're even starting to see it the last like week. I think back to our show a week ago, and it was like, oh, Arizona and Chicago are ahead of Minnesota and Nashville, and now it's like, hey, they're kind of it's evening out, and we'll see. I think Winnipeg's the other one in that division. That's like, what I don't know about you guys. Like, I'm sure you have one team that you really hate. Like, obviously, growing up, it was the Bruins because they killed us every time, or the Habs because Canadian rivalry. But man, the last couple of years, fuck the Jets.
Yeah, I another team. They're in first place in the division. It's like, what? Like, how'd that work?
Yeah, Hellebuck looks amazing. Other than that, I hate Pierre-Luc Dubois. Every time I see him, I just get pissed.
The Jets are just one of those teams that I feel like I could not possibly give less of a shit about. Like they're so boring to me. I feel nothing when I think of them.
They're just there. That's all I can say. They're a team. Like, congrats.
Well, we talk about teams in the standings, maybe trailing off near American Thanksgiving. One team who we haven't really talked about on our last two programs just because they've been winning so much, the New Jersey Devils. I mean, what do you think these guys can do? They've won 10 in a row, and we're very quickly approaching Thanksgiving next week, and they're first in the division.
Yeah, I mean, again, like they're kind of analytic darlings, right? Like they lead the league in goals expected for, they lead the league in goals expected against. So if you lean into that stuff, that looks good. If you just watch them, they play fast, they don't give up many high danger chances. Everything's to the outside, and their goalies have looked good. I think I saw today that Vinnychuk's 7-0 in his last 7 with like crazy save percentage, and like obviously they're on a winning streak. That's how it works, Nick. But like it's impressive when you look at those numbers, because I didn't think either of those guys were true number one goalies.
No, but it's true Capitals fashion. They let a player go, and he turns into a superstar.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for Samsonov. But exactly.
I do have to ask this just because it's my team, but are the Penguins dead?
Man, they're a weird team this year, eh? Like, what do you think?
Very weird. I have not been a Hextall fan since the start. I just don't like some of the moves that he's pulled. Between the Tanev and McCann situation, how he handled that, I was like, I don't really get what you're going for here. So I hate to say this, but this year feels a little bit different, and it sucks because like Malkin and Sid both still look kind of good. But the rest of the guys just look awful. Dumoulin looks terrible. Letang, I think, analytically is just getting lit on fire. So it's just not great at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've only watched them 3 or 4 times, and I think that's the vibe I got to. It's just a little all over the place. And then you look at their stats, and they've basically been at an even goal differential all year, and like that's a pretty good sign for their record overall. You want a little bit more out of the goaltending. Like, I don't think Jari looked great. DeSmith has at times, but not at others. So, like you said, Letang, Dumoulin need a little bit more out of some of those pieces, and I think they'll end up in the playoffs somehow. Like
they're like the Patriots. Like they're always gonna be good in my opinion.
It might be a wild card, but they're just somehow gonna make it to the second round, and everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, you slept on the Penguins again."
I hope you're right. I don't know. We'll see. One of the guys that I just can't stand the sight of him, and you're a Leafs guy, so you'll know this. Kasperi Kapanen's been the biggest waste of space I've ever seen in black and yellow. I don't know what is wrong with that guy. But
is he not the most infuriating player to watch?
Oh, I can't. He's been scratched for like they've scratched him the last 3 games in a row. I'm pretty sure.
Because you can see it with him, right? Like you see him get a burst of speed, and it's like, oh, Crosby can't keep up. Oh, Matthews couldn't keep up. Like he's gone, and then he'll get there and he'll fire it into the corner. And it's like, what are we doing?
That just means that soon enough he's going to be a Washington Capital, just like Daniel Sprong, where it's like, oh, it didn't work for the Penguins. Let's see if we can make it work for
Hagelin.
Reason.
Or Hagelin, exactly. Or
Connor Sherry.
All these guys.
Or Niskanen or Orpik or.
Yeah, it seems to be a trend.
So speaking of the Caps, I mean, go ahead and rip them apart for a little bit because do they look as bad to you as they do to us?
They look pretty bad. They look pretty bad. But I know I heard you guys say on your show last time that like it's the injuries and really that's all it is. And it sucks to chalk a season up to that. But like their whole right side's missing. Like you look at their IR is better than their second power play unit and maybe their first. Like it's tough. I mean, I'm a huge Ovi guy. The Leafs obviously really sucked from like, I don't know, '06 to like 16. So my childhood, I loved Ovi. I had Ovi jerseys, I had Oshie jerseys. I was a Capitals guy in the closet there. But so I want them to do well, but I liked the Kemper edition. I think he's a good goalie, but it doesn't matter if you're giving up 30 dangerous shots a game and you can't score. I will say the one bright spot that I didn't see coming was Dylan Strome. He's put
Amazing.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
like
he's looked elite.
talk about a dude who's had to bounce around to find his way, but like if he can figure it out there, and I don't know, is he with Mantha right now or?
They've been juggling it around
Yeah.
so much. It's hard to say who's with who, but
Yeah.
Yeah, if he can find a good pair there or something and get second, third line minutes, play on that first power play, like he's gonna put up points and gotta be happy for a dude like that, right?
Yeah, I
You're
think he's looked great on the half wall on that first
Yeah.
power play unit.
Yeah.
Thank God someone can handle the puck because
Yeah.
Lord knows they spend most of their time throwing it the other way.
I think you're spot on with the Kemper thing too. I mean, just last night against the Panthers, they literally made Darcy Kemper make 20 saves in the first period. Shots were 21-8 after one. And it's like right away, I'm like, you can't win a game like that.
No, and it's like we said, that's what Samsonov got the last couple of years too. And their D is like fine, I guess, like a couple of them, but like even Carlson's not great in his own zone, right? And then you jump down the lineup. Like I like Jensen, but other than that, like I didn't even. Isn't Matt Irwin in the lineup somehow?
Yep.
A lot of times he is now. Well, it really hurt losing Orlov too. He's on IR now too, and he's such a like steady Eddie, just staple player back there for us. So I don't know what the decor is doing lately without him, but it's not good.
What would you suggest the Capitals do from here? Because like, are they gonna find their way back in a really tough
Stop
Eastern?
letting Eric Gustafsson do breakouts because that just looks so bad.
It's
Yeah.
tough. What I've said all along is like they just need to find a way to not get buried in the standings until we get some of these guys back. But it's looking less and less likely that that's going to be able to be possible. My main thing is like, there is a ton of guys missing, Backstrom, Oshie, Orlov, you name it. But it's all about Tom Wilson for me. Like, I think that he is just the most irreplaceable guy in the lineup. What he does for us is so unique. He creates space for that top line to really do their thing. And they've had a carousel of guys trying to replace him on that top line. Sherry, Protus, Mantha, none of it really works. So until we can get him back, and I don't know how soon that's going to be, it's going to be tough to get in the win column.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I'll carry over a segment that we do on our show. We just say something nice and we pick one of the worst teams and say something nice. So say something nice about the Capitals. Every year when the Leafs lose, Tom Wilson is the guy that the entire city is dying for. Every trade on Cap Friendly, every trade on Twitter. So yes, once Wilson's back, I think you'll it's almost just a boost to the room when you get a guy like that back, right? Like let alone on ice. It's a boost to the morale.
Totally.
I also like what I've seen out of Milano so far. I mean, for what you get him for, and I really like the Obey Kubel move, obviously before he got sussied. But
Weird. Like, why did Toronto let him go?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess that's a question for me, but why did Toronto let him go? Like that's it. He was our signing on day one of free agency.
That's right.
9 games into the year, we said, you're not doing great. The whole team sucked 9 games.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
And yeah, so I don't know. He didn't really get a shake there. And what we always rip on the Leafs is they've been up at 50 out of 50 contract slots for however long. So thank you for claiming him. The fact that you claimed him allowed us to sign an AHL goalie the day after because Samsonov got hurt. But yeah, that was a dirty hit. But I hope he finds a home there because he's a decent player, man. Like he can fly around. He knows what he's doing.
First 2.5 games before he got sussied, I thought he looked great.
Yeah.
Easily top 3 players on the ice for him.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting move all around.
Who's like a sleeper team so far this season that you think could be a threat down the stretch?
I'm gonna stick with one that I said in the preseason previews and stuff on different shows just to make myself feel good. But it's the Detroit Red Wings for me. Like Husso's been amazing. Their forwards are so skilled. I don't like Ben Sherratt, but I like the addition of Ben Sherratt. I like the addition of David Perron. That's a veteran who's won and knows how to win, right? And I just if you give me a chance to believe in Stevie Y, I'm going to believe in Stevie Y. And he's putting together a heck of a team there in Detroit. Larkin, he's going to want a big payday, so he's going to keep having a good year. They're young guys like Mo and Raymond. They're all taking a step forward. I just like the way that Detroit plays a lot. I think the coaching change was a very necessary move as well. So everybody was kind of riding the Montreal and Ottawa hype train up here. And I said at the start of the year, nope, Detroit's making the playoffs, neither of them. So I'm going to stick to my guns because I think they're fourth or fifth in the division right now.
I was big on them too, and I love what Dom Kubalik has done for them so far too.
Yeah, he's been lights out. Like I don't really know where that came from, but I hope he keeps it up.
Yeah, they're definitely a fun hockey team to watch. And I think if you look at what, the Yzer plan is clearly in full effect here, especially with the youngsters. He built that team in Tampa, let's be real. And it looks like he's going to do it again here.
I really like what they're doing out there. And if it's not this year, it's going to be the next handful of years. I'd say the one thing that worries me is that I think they're 2 games above 500, but they've got like a -7 goal differential. So that's not great. I think they have 4 overtime losses, which again, kind of get those freebie points early in the year, makes you look better than you might actually be. But no, I like what Detroit's building. I think they're going to have a good 5 to 10 years here soon.
And then, oh, you go, Nick. Sorry.
I was going to ask, what have you thought of the Flames so far? Because I feel like people thought that they were going to, pick up where they left off last year. And I would just say flat is the best way to describe them right now.
Yeah, I think that is the best way to put it. And I want to give them some slack because anytime you lose your 2 best players, there's going to be some change, right? Like even just the attitude when you walk in the dressing room in the morning and you're kicking a soccer ball around, or you're taping your twigs together. Like you just lost your 2 best players, brought in some great players, but it's a difference, right? So kind of wanted to give them 10 games to adjust to that. But at the 10 game mark, they started getting worse. So Huberdeau hasn't found a fit yet. I don't know if you saw Sutter's quotes the other day, like he's on the 3rd line because he hasn't done shit anywhere else. And it's like, that's not a great thing to say about the guy you just signed long term. I love the Kadri signing. I think no matter where Kadri went, I would have loved the Kadri signing. Like that dude's a dog. He's just going to win. Like I love that signing for Calgary, especially though, because he's just another piece up the middle. Lindholm, he's so underrated, maybe underappreciated is a better word, but he's sick. And I really like the addition of Uyghur in that deal. Like how they just threw in a top 4 defenseman like that was pretty neat.
I think he looks so much more at home than he did in Florida. In Florida, I think he made a couple plays every game where I was like, dude, what the hell are you doing? But clearly it's working for him in Calgary. So, I mean, good for him.
Yeah, and people were like, oh, his numbers are inflated by playing with Ekblad, which guess what? Ours would be too if we were out there with him. Like that's how it goes. But now he kind of give him a bit of leash. He give him a different change of scenery there, and he wants that big ticket. So he's looked good too. Yeah.
It's just kind of interesting, like how the whole Huberdeau Tkachuk flip has worked, because Tkachuk fits right in perfectly. He's tied for 12th in the league in scoring right now, and Florida looks great, and Huberdeau, is on the 3rd line. It's just, I don't think any of us could have saw that coming.
No, I think I honestly probably predicted the exact opposite. I said like Tkachuk's kind of a bigger personality, like might take a while to kind of sink in there. And I wasn't high on Florida coming into this year. I did not get firing what's his name, Burnett there after the playoffs. Like they won the President's Trophy. Like he's clearly doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love the Paul Maurice signing because like we said earlier, the Jets are just kind of in existence and that's kind of his fault there. So I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on Florida yet. I think if they end up getting there, it's because they've got Bobrovsky and Knight in net, and that almost seems unfair.
Yeah. You talked about it earlier, but you guys got your own podcast for Hockey Collective. What can some of our fans who might want to check you guys out expect on that podcast?
Yeah, similar to this, just like I said, talking about hockey overall, we all just love it. We've got I guess 2 Leafs fans on the show and a Hawks fan. So we've got a good rotation there. The Hawks fan's also an Avs fan, and the other guy's also Tyler, he's also a Red Wings fan. So we get some good banter going and stuff there. We've got a couple guests on. This week's episode that came out was with Kane Van Gate. self-proclaimed best beer league goalie in the world. So had some cool stories with him about playing college with BX, playing high school with Ben Bishop and Paul Stastny and others there. So honestly, like I said, just trying to share cool stories around the game. And as you guys know, there's so many cool personalities and stories that don't always come to light, like we said before the show, on ESPN or on TSN or whatever it may be. So really, that's it, man. Just trying to share some cool stories and entertain the masses.
That's awesome, man. Glad to hear it. And I'm glad that things are going so well for you guys. So we'll be sure to check that out. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up here?
No, I think that's it. But appreciate you having me on. Like I said, check out the podcast, check out the socials. We'll do some stuff together here after this, and check out the apparel store too. I got Matthew's one on here. Greatest leaf of all time.
Oh, I love that.
That's
oh my
awesome.
God, I think I'm put that in my shopping cart right now.
I was gonna say though, that hat you're wearing is pretty fire too, and that jersey. I love the merch I've seen so far.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll do a little merch swap here, and like I said,
good.
thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. Of course, man. Take it easy.